So why is everyone, from Washington to Beijing, suddenly so obsessed with this massive island of ice up near the North Pole? I mean, on the surface, it just looks like a frozen, empty wasteland. But underneath all that ice, a new global power struggle is heating up, and the world's superpowers are all making their moves. Let's dive in and figure out why Greenland has become the new center of the world.
And boom, it all blew up in the headlines with this one incredibly blunt statement. Now, this wasn't just some random comment about buying land, this was a signal. It reignited an American ambition that's over 100 years old and put the whole world on notice.
So what is it? What is it about this giant land of ice and snow that makes it so ridiculously valuable? Well, the answer, it's a lot deeper and way more complicated than you might think. It's a story about military strategy, unimaginable wealth, and a secret that could literally reshape our world.
Okay, so to really get to the why, we first have to wrap our heads around the what. We need to get a sense of what Greenland actually is, because it's this place of huge contradictions. And what you see on the surface, well, it hides what makes it so incredibly important.
First off, you gotta understand just how huge this place is. This isn't just some island, it's the largest island in the world. To give you some perspective, Greenland is bigger than Mexico. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia. We're talking about an absolutely massive piece of real estate.
And get this, even with all that land, 80% of it is buried under one single, colossal sheet of ice. We're not talking about a little snow. We're talking about ice that is, in some places, 2 kilometers thick. It's a landscape from another time.
And here's where it gets kinda wild. On this massive continent-sized island, the total population is just 57,000 people. That's smaller than a lot of towns. Almost everybody's squeezed onto these little coastal strips where there's no ice. So, it's vast and it is almost completely empty.
So if it's so empty and cold, why the obsession? Well, this whole thing isn't new. Not at all. The US has actually been trying to get its hands on Greenland for more than a century. Right after they bought Alaska back in 1867, they made their first offer. They tried again in 1910, and after World War II, President Truman offered $100 million in gold. That's over $1 billion today. This desire for Greenland runs deep in American strategy.
And that brings us to the #1 reason for this whole obsession. It's that old saying you hear in real estate and in geopolitics. Location, location, location.
Seriously, picture a globe for a second. Greenland is sitting right on top of the world, parked perfectly between North America and Russia. If you have a major presence there, you effectively control the strategic high ground of the entire Arctic, and that region is becoming more and more important every single year.
The US already has a supercritical base there, the Patuxent Space Base, and this base is basically America's tripwire. It's got this advanced radar system that can spot a Russian nuclear missile launch just moments after it leaves the ground, because any missile aimed at the US has to fly right over the Arctic.
So, what's the big fear for the US? Well, it's a couple of things. First, there's a really strong independence movement in Greenland. If they break away from Denmark, a new government could just tell the US to pack up and leave. And second, there's this feeling that Denmark is just too small to properly defend such a vital spot from Russia or China. This quote, it pretty much sums up that anxiety perfectly.
But, military strategy, that's just one piece of the puzzle. Because buried under that 2-kilometer thick sheet of ice is a literal treasure trove of resources. Resources that are absolutely essential for the 21st century economy.
Okay, let's talk about tech. Right now, China basically has the world in a chokehold when it comes to what are called rare earth elements. They control about 90% of the world's supply. And these aren't just some weird metals, they're in everything, from your smartphone to fighter jets. And China has already shown it's willing to cut off supplies to get what it wants.
And this is why Greenland is such a game changer. Surveys have shown it's sitting on enormous, untouched deposits of these exact elements. You're talking about neodymium for electric car and wind turbine magnets, gallium for AI chips, even uranium for nuclear power. They call these things the oxygen of future technology, and Greenland has tons of them. Getting access would completely break China's monopoly.
And it's not just about these high-tech minerals either. We're also talking about old-school energy. The estimates for oil and gas are just staggering. Just in the northeast part of Greenland alone, experts think there could be 31 billion barrels of oil just sitting there.
And then there's one more hidden resource, one you can't even see: data. The super important undersea fiber optic cables that carry pretty much all of the internet traffic between North America and Europe, they run through the waters right around Greenland.
And the big fear in Washington is that Russian ghost ships could try to cut those cables in a conflict. Controlling Greenland means protecting the world's digital lifeline.
So, okay, we've got military position and a ton of natural resources. But the final reason, the one that is the ultimate game changer, is being created by a force nobody can stop: climate change. We are talking about a brand new highway that is going to alter the entire world.
You see, for all of human history, the Arctic has been this impassable wall of ice. But now, that ice is melting, and as it disappears, a brand new shipping lane is opening up, the Northwest Passage. And this is revolutionary. A cargo ship going from China to London can save 9,000 kilometers. That's 10 to 15 days of travel time. The savings on fuel alone are in the billions.
This isn't just another canal like the Suez. This is a new ocean highway. I mean, people have been searching for this legendary passage for hundreds of years. Explorers died looking for it. And now, climate change is just handing it to us. And whichever country controls the entrance to this route is going to have enormous economic power.
And that right there, that is Greenland's ultimate value. It sits right at the front door of this new global highway. Controlling Greenland is like owning the toll booth for the future of world trade. Russia and China are already trying to dominate this route with their Polar Silk Road. For the United States, letting that happen is just not an option.
So there you have it. That's the whole picture. The strategic location, the buried treasure, and the new global highway. The stakes couldn't be higher. But what happens if the US really pushes this? What's the price of trying to take control of Greenland? I mean, the potential fallout here is huge. For starters, you've got Denmark, a founding NATO member. An aggressive move could literally break the alliance. It would shatter centuries of trust between the US and Europe. Huge mining projects would absolutely devastate a fragile ecosystem. And maybe the scariest part? It would set a new precedent that powerful countries can just take what they want. That's a very dangerous world to live in.
So when you look at all this, you realize the fight for Greenland isn't really about one island at all. It's about who gets to write the rules for the next 100 years. The decisions made about these new trade routes, these resources, and who has sovereignty, they are going to shape the world for our children and our grandchildren.
Which leaves us with one last really big question. As the Arctic ice continues to melt, revealing all this treasure and these new strategic pathways, will the fate of Greenland lead us down a path of peace and cooperation? Or is this cold, remote land about to become the flashpoint for the first hot war of a new, colder world order?